Hi, welcome. I'm Jessie Walters from Charles Rutenberg. I'm here today joining you from Pasco County, and we're going to talk about just different things. And the main thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was how do realtors find the house values, which is pretty interesting to me. And I know a lot of you guys ask me as far as when we're looking for home values, how are these realtors coming up with the figures? And so I'm going to go back to basically brass tacks here and tell you guys how that's done. So when we do a market analysis, we call it a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis. It's obviously not a appraisal, and we're not appraisers. But what we do is we try to figure out what the appraiser is going to come up with. And doing that, basically we'll take 3 properties usually is what the appraiser is going to take too. And they're going to be sold in the last 3 months. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 3 actual sold properties near this home. It's obviously awesome if you have like a cookie cutter neighborhood. I hate to call it cookie cutter, but so you have a 1,200 square foot house, and then you have another 1,200 square foot house, and it's 1980. It was sold or built. It was 1980. It was built. That's a perfect scenario. You can just look at those comps and see, oh yeah, this is the base square foot. Basically on the houses, which is kind of confusing, but that's like the perfect scenario. Right now I'm doing one in Suncoast Highlands, so I thought I'd share with you guys how I'm coming up with the actual listing price on it. So first of all, if the house that I'm looking at, which is a cement block home, I'll look at the base square foot. So I'll go to the Pasco County. This one's in Pasco. I'll go to the Pasco County property appraiser, find the base square foot, find the year of the listing, and find the acreage. So when I take all that stuff, I'm going to go then. For me, I have the MLS, so obviously that's an asset. So then I'll go to the MLS and I'll put in the legal. So on this one, the legal's Suncoast Highlands, and then it'll show like 80 homes. And then I'm going to go to single family residence because it's a single family residence. So first thing that came up when I did it was a mobile home. So I'm looking at a cement block home. So I take the mobile home, put that to the side. That's not going to work. Another mobile home that's in Suncoast Highlands. Suncoast Highlands is off of Shady Hills Boulevard. And then these are basically like $79 a square foot. This one is $122 a square foot. Then I get to the houses. So the houses are what we're going to use as a comparison to it, because basically this is a cement block home. And it was built in 1983. It's on 2.3 acres. So if anybody's looking for a home, I'm going to be listing this one shortly. So anyway, we're going to go to Suncoast Highlands off of Shady Hills, and I'm going to try to narrow it down. So when we're comparing, we're not actually going miles and miles away. You're going to try to get to the closest property with the same legal, with the same year, if possible, or close to the same year built home. So you're going to basically look for 3 solds, and then you're going to average them together. So you want to go similar square foot, similar year, similar acreage. So there's many factors on that. So basically, when I get those narrowed down, the 3 properties, which I have the 3 properties here that I'm gonna average it with. When I get these 3 properties down, one is wood frame, so that's going to be a little bit less per square foot compared to a cement block. One doesn't have a brand new roof on it, and then this one that I'm listing has a newer roof. And then one has new kitchen, new roof, new pretty much everything. So when you take all these 3 together, you're going to basically try to match them up as close as possible. But as an appraiser, they have a sheet that takes like the kitchen year, the bathroom year, any additions, granite countertops, all that stuff's going to be more like actually to the exact penny. Whereas in a realtor is going to give you like your values from, 400 to 425, somewhere in there. Where an appraiser is going to be like, we're going to give you extra for this granite. We're going to, this one, this extra porch, this extra, just different things. So they can just basically narrow it down more. But when we do it, we're going to do, like I said, similar square foot, similar year, similar acreage on these because these are all over 2 acres. And you're going to break it down to how old is the roof. And on these 3, we're going to look at which one has a new roof compared to this one with a newer roof. How many have a new AC? How many have a new kitchen? When was it updated? How many have a new bathroom? And then you're going to take the square foot prices of these 3 homes. So for instance, not what they listed for, because you're going to look at the solds only. Now the reason for this is because, as a seller right now, we could put $1 million on a home right now. And it doesn't mean that that's a comparable for you. That sold is. So if I put for sale, and let's just say, I want to, I'm not a good person. I'm going to, my friend's going to list their house. I'm going to put my house for $1 million so that they can get an appraisal. That's why they don't let you do that. That's why they don't let you comp that for sale, because you can literally list any house for any amount of money if you really wanted to. So we're only going to use solds in the last 3 months, and which is real important right now because, the market is so good right now that you want it to be, basically, you want those solds to be as close to today's date as possible because it keeps just going up and up and up. So what I usually do is I'll even look at a pending listing for, as far as realtors who are watching this, you can call that agent and they're not allowed to disclose the actual sale amount, but you can get an idea by what's for sale, when their sale date is, and then obviously you can tell the appraiser this one's being sold on this date when they actually come out. But when we're listing it, which is what I'm doing on this one, is we take the 3 solds. So I got Suncoast Highlands, Suncoast Highlands, Suncoast Highlands, and like I was saying, the one has, for instance, an extra garage, and so we're going to minus that out as far as when we compare the prices together. This one has compressor, brand new garage doors, all that stuff we're going to take into play. And on mine, I'm going to do a checklist as far as, this house has new carpet, newer kitchen, granite. So I'm going to be looking on my comparables for something close to that. And like I said, this one here and was sold June 16th, 2021. Sold price $468. Square foot was $178 a square foot. So that one was the perfect kitchen, newer than the house I'm selling. But that one was a really good comp as far as it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's 2.31 acres. And of course it's septic tank, which is the same. The year is 1982. So my comparable is 1983. My acreage is almost the same. And then mine, of course, it's a septic tank. And this one is the one that's all upgraded, new kitchen. They've redone all the countertops, all that stuff. That's $178 a square foot. So that's a really good comp for me. So I'll use that one. And then again, this one's a 3.2. It sold for $299. It's smaller. It's 1,580 square foot, where the other one was 2,620. The one I'm trying to list is 2,300. Now, a appraiser might not use this one only because of it's not 10% close to the 2,300 square foot. So in other words, 2,300 minus 230, that wouldn't put it at 1,580 square foot, but they may use this comparable. It's 1,580 square foot, and it's $299,000. That's $223 a square foot. And then this one was a 2.2, and it's sold for $240, and it's $227 a square foot, and they're all the same acreage. So what you do then, it's kind of confusing, but you get these 3 solds, and then you would think it would be the price that they sold for. A lot of people, that's kind of a misconception. They'll say, my house is better than my neighbor's house, and it sold for $350. So I know I'm going to get $400 because their house is a piece of junk compared to my house. Well, if their house is 1,000 square foot bigger than yours, that's not a good comparable for you, as far as you're going to look at the square foot price, not necessarily the total price on the house. So, if their house is 1,000 square foot, that's why they got more money. A lot of people just look at that looks the same as my house, and they got 50. They're at 400. I should get 450. And that's not necessarily how it works. If their house is like you were saying, 1,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot, 3,000 square foot bigger than yours, you're going to have to go by the square foot price, not by the total sale amount. So it gets a little confusing. So when you get the total sale amounts, like I was saying, on here, you're going to take the square foot prices. So like I was saying, one is 178, one is 223, and one is 227 a square foot. And these are now I've narrowed it down to the 3 solds in the last 3 months and the closest to the property that match up with the house year, the square foot, and the acreage. So when I do that, I take these 3 and I add them together, and then I divide it by 3, and that gives me the average square foot price that I'm going to price this new house at that I'm listing, or actually not new, but new to me listing. So when I average those 3 together, then I come up with the square foot price, which I times my 2,300 square foot, and that gives me my listing price approximately. So that's kind of how they do it. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So basically, 3 square foot prices of solds, average them together, square foot price times square foot price of your house. That's how you do it. I know that there's going to be extra things which are going to come into play. So you have like an extra garage. Someone got a value of 10 to 20,000 more for the property on top of the square foot price because they had an extra garage, or it may be some type of special fencing, or it could be, the granite and the granite in the bathrooms, were upgrade. It was quartz in the one room, and we have, we don't have granite in the bathrooms. It could be stuff like that, or it could be the flooring. We have carpet throughout most of this house, and then the other flooring, they had like an upgraded flooring, something like that. So when they're comparing, when they come out to your house and they do the appraisal because you're under contract, it's a little bit, like I was saying, they're going to fine tune it. They're going to look at, flooring. They're going to look at granite. A lot of times my sellers will make a list, which I do suggest. We have a water softener. We got our roof, which they'll pull permits. So no telling tales on your roof. You have to put the right year on there, and AC, because they're going to pull permits and see what your AC, your roof. And then if you have an extra acre, say these were all 2.1, 2.3, they're going to give you a credit for that extra stuff that you have. Do you have a built-in sauna? That's extra. Do you have a pool? That's extra. So all that stuff will be extra on top of the square foot price, because on these 3 that I have, none of them have a pool, so we would be adding on. Now, and the same thing goes if these 3 all had a pool, and then the subject property that I'm actually doing the CMA for doesn't have a pool, I would be subtracting it off. And a lot of people ask me, what is the average price that the appraisers give for a pool? Depending on the appraiser, it's between 10 to 20,000. So if you have a pool and you've spent 50,000 on it, unfortunately, it's not like a used car. As soon as you get it, it's worth less. It's just that they don't say, well, where's your receipt? Well, then here's 50,000, additional. They usually say, if it's pretty nice, they'll say, here's 10, here's your pavers, 3, just extra stuff like that. They'll add it up. So usually it comes out, the average I've seen is around 20. And then if you have an older, and it's starting to look fatigued pool, you're going to get around 10, just to give you guys an idea. So the different values and stuff, though, people will say, well, I spent 50,000 on my kitchen. So that's there's another big misconception. So you have your gourmet kitchen and you love it, and you spent 50,000 on it, and your neighbor next door sold their house. So you say, well, we have identical houses. They sold their house for 400. So I have this gourmet kitchen. My house is worth 450. Well, that's not necessarily how that works, because the gourmet kitchen that you put in obviously is beautiful and you love your gourmet kitchen, but the house next door had a kitchen too that was functional. It may not be a gourmet kitchen, but it still had a kitchen. Was it upgraded? What you need to find out is, was it upgraded? If it was upgraded, then they're just going to give you probably a little teeny bit more for your convection ovens, for your extra counter space, for the just different cabinetry and stuff that you have. But it's not going to be $50,000, because every home, unless it's a foreclosure and the kitchens are ripped out, are going to have a kitchen that you're comparing other comparables to, so that they're not going to give you the 0 to 50,000 on your kitchen. They're going to say, well, this kitchen is kind of not like a used car, but kind of now that it's used, it's not worth 50,000. It's in your home. The house next door had an upgraded kitchen. They only spent 20 on. So we're going to give you the average kitchen price of the upgrades, which is going to be like I said, your quartz, your granite, your extra covers over, just stuff that's not like the normal convection oven, stuff like that. Those, you're going to get your upgrades from there. Not necessarily the whole amount that you spent. And again, like the whole amount on the pool, the whole amount. If you have if everyone you're comping with has a spa and you don't, then literally when you do the comparison, I'm minusing out for the spa because everyone else got a little bit extra money. Now, if the spa was 10 grand, I'm not minusing out 10 grand. I'm minusing out around 3, because again, once you put items into your home, you're not getting the exact value that you put in. So, I know during COVID, a lot of people sat home and just piled money into their home. It's a great time to do that right now because the values keep going up, but it's not necessarily, if you put 14 karat gold, appliances and handles and everything, doesn't mean that when people come in that they're going to give you that full 14 karat gold price tag that you spent, obviously. And don't go do that. Don't go buying 14 karat gold. But yeah, so extra garages, stuff like that. That's all gonna play in. But if you have them, we can add them on top. But most of the time, these are rural where I'm actually. This is zoned. What is this one? This one is zoned, I think, agricultural. Yeah. So you're not gonna actually. If you're in Trinity or if you're in Tampa, there's not going to be room where you're going to have the extra garages and stuff like that on most properties. But when you get out to like Shady Hills, this is where this one's at. You're going to find, extras as far as, is there a barn? Is there a pole barn? Is there electric to the barn? Stuff like that. You're going to get extra values and stuff. So I hope that made sense. So you're going to take 3 sold properties, you're going to average them, and they got to be similar. One can't be 1,000 square foot and one be 3,000 square foot. The roof is going to be around the same AC, and that's how we do it. When we average the prices together, we get the square foot price times your square foot, and that's our value approximately in there, and then minus out what you don't have compared to your neighbors, or put on what you do have compared to your neighbors. So that kind of gives you an idea on that. But right now, obviously, we know it's a seller's market. So sellers are getting full money and stuff on their homes and getting over. I know last week when I was talking to you guys, I was telling you that, I had one and we went 30, it was a villa, and we went 35,000 over asking price to get the villa. And obviously it worked out, but you would think at 35,000 we were the only crazy people doing that, but we were head to head. We almost lost it with another, another buyer. So you have to be savvy right now with your buying. So I made a buyer's tips for purchase to help you guys out. So anyway, so we got some tips. These are my personal tips, and that was my personal CMA too. So I'm not saying that that's how 100% of the people do it all the time, but I've been doing this 16 years, so that's how I do it. But right now is a special time in the market. So we have buyer's tips for purchase. And what does that mean? It means like, what am I doing with my clients as far as buyers, and what would I suggest you to do if you're a buyer, or if you're a buyer's agent and you're new to the industry? What's working for me in the industry right now and in this market. So you see a listing, your customer sees a listing, it's one day on the market. What should I do? Well, obviously you should go out that night and see the listing. Okay, I can't make it. I have to work. Can I see it? Well, yeah, we can see if we can see it at 7 o'clock at night. Oh, okay, so we can make it there at 7 o'clock. What if the seller won't let you in? Well, these are questions to ask. Are they going to have a open house? And if the answer is yes, well then, okay, we can wait till the open house to the weekend. We don't have to run out there. So what you need your agent to do is to call to verify if they get a really good offer in prior to this open house. Are they canceling the open house, or are they still going to keep it going and take highest and best offers by Sunday? So it's Friday. I see this one day on the listing. I know I got to work late and they don't want anyone in, but there's open house Saturday. Are we going to wait? So that's one question you need as a buyer's agent. I'll call the other agent. If they're busy, text the other agent. Say, are you guys taking highest and best? Are you 100% waiting? If you get a good offer, are you guys going to have an open house? Because a lot of sellers that live in these houses don't want people trampling in and out of their house all weekend. And we're talking 50 people at a time. So they're just, some of them are just saying, call it, give me that offer before the open house. So you need to be aware of if there is a bid deadline. A lot of times in the MLS, your buyer's agents are going to see that the agent, now the public won't be able to see this, but the buyer's agents should be able to see highest and best by Sunday. And keep an eye on that when you're going to, to show it, because you're going to want to make sure they didn't update that. Like, okay, we're calling it, we have 20 offers. We're going to call it Saturday at 12. So you need to keep an eye on that. And then also, right before you go out as a buyer's agent, you want to shoot a text over, hey, I'm going to show that property. Is it still in the market? Do you have any offers in? So you're going to want to put in that offer, obviously the same day if it's possible, or like I was saying, if you have a deadline as far as the cutoff is Sunday at 6, you can take it easy and you can verify that date, but also you want to make sure sooner than later on that. So what do I need for that? What do I need for that actual offer as a buyer or buyer's agent? You guys are going to need a pre-approval. We have Delynn from the mortgage firm who I normally suggest that you guys use. She can get you pre-approved, and they have it automated so that if she's not in the office and she gets you your pre-approval, I can jot in the numbers and then it'll shoot me out a pre-approval. So let's just say your bid is 300. Delynn's got you approved up to 350. And you want to just put a bid in for 305. We can get you the pre-approval for 305. Just tap it in, change a couple numbers, send that pre-approval out, and you're good to go. But it's good. I mean, she will work on the weekends, but it's better to get the pre-approval done prior to looking. Make sure that's in place. So, so you have the pre-approval in hand, and then your proof of funds. So if you're putting a big amount of money down, let's just say, you're going to put $100,000 down. Or 50,000, whatever it is, and you want to show the people, oh look, I have this much, or maybe it's even 40,000, but you've got like $100,000 in your account. You want to send that pre-approval to show you're strong. If you want to leave your money, the whole amount in there, I mean that looks great for a seller's agent. When we see those come in, we see that they've got 100,000 in the bank, and they're only putting 40,000 down, but we know that they're a good, strong buyer. So it's great to see that. So if you're going to send that over, you want to, you can take a screenshot of your bank account, but you want to cross out your account numbers. You obviously leave your name on there because they're going to want to see that and the amount in your account, but cross out your account numbers, have that ready to go. So you got your pre-approval and you got your proof of funds. So especially with the larger down payment, or if you're paying cash, you're going to have to actually, have the whole amount on your funds. So if you have 4 different accounts, do you have to send 4 different? Yeah. If they add up, so if you're getting a house for 300,000 cash, and you got 100,000 here, 100,000 here, and 100,000 there, you're going to have to show 3 statements, cross out your account numbers, and have that ready to go. So, but I like the idea if you're putting that big, large down payment to send over proof of funds on that too with your pre-approval. Just looks like, even if you're not using the whole amount, it just looks like you're a strong buyer. So, so larger down payment obviously is key. Short inspection periods. So what is that? So the home inspection, sometimes people are literally waiving the entire inspection right now. It's kind of scary for a first-time home buyer to waive a whole inspection period, but some people that are seasoned will go in a house and say, oh, I bought 10 of them. This one looks good. I'm not even going to have an inspection. If it's immaculate, original homeowner stuff, I can understand that. A lot of times, if you don't want to waive that home inspection, is to do a 7-day inspection or a 5-day inspection. Obviously, have your buyer's agent or yourself call your home inspector and make sure he has he has some time that he can pitch in. And most of the time they will if you tell them, I only have 5 days to get this done, they'll fit you in. So that inspection period on your contract is a real big deal. So far you've gone and saw a house, you found out when the deadline is, you're getting ready to send that contract in. So now you're going to put a 5 to 7 day home inspection period. Your big lump sum on that contract, you send over proof of funds, you got your pre-approval, and then so most average close dates are 30-day close. And with the sellers right now, of course, we're saying, you hear it over and over on the news, it's a seller's market, it's a seller's market. So what I do is I call the other agent, the listing agent, and say, hey, when does your seller want to close? Like, in other words, we think that when you have cash, closing in 2 weeks is awesome, and so does a seller. But when a seller lives in a house, and they have for about 20 years, they have so much stuff that the 2 weeks is almost, just shocking to them. They can't handle it. So what you have to do is call the agent, seller's agent, and I will get those calls that say, when is the perfect date for your seller? And that's such a smart thing to do. Find out that perfect date. I had some just in River Crossing, and that's in Pasco County. They had a perfect date because their house was ready, and so the buyer was cash, and the buyer said, "Okay, we'll close on that day." We had other cash buyers, but because that buyer appeased the seller so much, we obviously went with them. It was the day. It was a short inspection period. Everything was just perfect on that. So that's one thing. So 30-day close, or find out the key seller date. And then here's another one that people are doing right now. The seller puts all the furniture for sale. And so you have one contract come in, and it says, here's your dates, all this stuff. It's a good contract. Another one comes in, same exact price, but then they send a separate addendum that says, we want to buy all your furniture. And they had put in MLS furniture negotiable. Well, what do you think is easier for a seller to clean out and get moving trucks to the one buyer, or do you think it's easier for him to sell it all to the second buyer and not have to move anything? Just grab your toothbrush and your clothes. So obviously the seller will take the other offer because that buyer now has all their furniture. All they got to do is basically, like I said, get their pots and pans, their clothes, toothbrush, and go ahead and move out. So that's another way to kind of leverage. You don't want to get stuck with a whole house full of furniture if you have your own furniture, but I'm telling you right now, that's a key way of getting a seller really excited because they don't have to do anything at all. Now they're getting top money or over asking and over. They have the key date they want to close, and now you're buying all their furniture, so they don't have to move anything. So that's a perfect scenario for them. So there's less moving. Or is there a lawnmower? Here's another way. Is there a lawnmower in the house? Okay, we like to buy the lawnmower so they don't have to move it. Now, if they're just moving down the road, they probably need their lawnmower. But if they're moving out of state or to a smaller place or to like a condo type style living, they're not going to need that lawnmower. So again, the buyer that is looking like they're willing to work with that actual seller by purchasing a lawnmower or purchasing the furniture, then basically, you look like you're obviously, you don't look like it, you're actually appeasing that seller. So they're most likely going to go with your offer if it's good and incompatible and comparable to the other offers. So I've had them so far pay for a cleaner for the seller. So the buyer says, well, we're going to go ahead and we'll pay for the cleaner. We love your house so much. And of course, I told you guys before, they're writing letters. Just be very careful when you write letters now. There has been some lawsuits with the letters that you can write to your sellers. You don't want to go just like, what is it? Like with I'm trying to think of a way to put it without sounding, basically, you cannot write a letter and state, I am single, I am married, I have this many kids, I am from this place. You have to just tell that in your letter, tell that seller how much you love their home. You can't pull out like your, I am this, I am that, we are this, we are that, because that's where it gets a little bit, sketchy as far as people suing, because they feel like they wrote a letter and then they actually got used against them, so that's what the lawsuits are actually, that's what they're against right now. So if you write a letter, I just had one. We wrote a letter, and well, I didn't write the letter. They wrote the letter, and it was a really nice letter. They took a picture of their family, and they sent that with it, which is really nice. So not only did they introduce themselves, tell how much they love the house and how they needed to live there, but actually sent a picture of themselves to, for the seller to see. And the seller loved it. I talked to her at the home inspection, and she thought that was great. But they had a husband with the same name, so it was kind of a coincidence thing. So she had wrote that in the letter. So you just have to be really careful in the letters now. But again, take a picture. We had seen that the buyers, some buyers are paying for sellers to move their actual stuff. So when they find out where they're moving to, they actually pay for the moving truck. So that's another, you can put up to blank, seller will pay for mover, buyer will pay for a mover for seller. So that's another kind of a neat thing to do. It sounds crazy, but when you're desperate to get a house, desperate situations call for desperate contract clauses. So I don't know if I have a mortgage, if I'd put that in there, but I would definitely put it on an addendum, that I'm going to pay separately cash to move you out. And I know too, we had talked about another one that I had sold in River Crossing, another customer. She needed to stay in the home after the closing. So the buyer that basically agreed to do that is the buyer she went with. So she got to lease back the home just for 1 week. So that's a after closing occupancy. There's a form for that. And again, I don't know if banks want to see that your seller's staying in there for a week, but between you and me, that we had that, and she leased it back they ended up for free for the seller. But they did hold an escrow to do that, meaning that they took some of the seller sold the house, she stayed in the house, and then they held $1,000 for damages. So when the seller moved out, she could actually, if there was any damages, they could take it out of the $1,000. So, or God forbid she didn't move out, they'd have $1,000 to get her out. But that's worst case scenario. But of course she moved out, and she did get her $1,000 back. But that after escrow does help. And again, we had one the other day. I was telling you guys this a couple shows ago. This one was I'd sold in Hudson, Lakeside Woodlands, and we had a back room flood the day before closing. And of course, the buyer still wanted to move in. It was just from a tap outside, so it was fresh water. But what are we going to do? So we escrowed money from the actual seller to repair the flooring, the tap outside, the dehumidifier, all that stuff. And basically, when it was all done, the balance was released back to the seller. And then, of course, the buyer paid the buyer back for all the new flooring and stuff like that. I mean, some sellers are great. That seller was great, totally understandable. It was, it was obviously the property's fault. Not her fault, not the seller, but she worked right with us, and so that was another way to work with the actual seller. So, so on the listings, when we were talking about actually, so that's stuff for buyers. That's the way to, if you're a buyer, that's the way to actually, make up your contract short as you can as far as closing, short as you can as home inspection period. And then if there's any inventive stuff that you can do, like I was saying, if you want to go ahead and take all that furniture, that's awesome. Lawnmower is awesome. Anything you can do to make it easier for the seller is going to definitely, light them up. They're going to definitely be, excited about that. Another thing is escrow amounts too on those contracts. So I know a lot of you guys send over, because I see them when I get them in, is you'll send over $500 escrow or $1,000. If the house is $350, then, try to get $3,500 to $5,000 escrow deposit. Your buyers are protected for that home inspection period. And they're protected with their mortgages too. So if they lose their jobs, they're going to get their $5,000 back. If they're not happy during the home inspection period, they're going to get their money back. But use that escrow to show off how much down payment you guys have, how strong you are, how much you want the house. If you put $500 down, or if you put zero down, it just looks like you're not totally 100% in. So they'll look at, well, they don't have any risk. Of course, like I was saying, most of the time it is protected during your home inspection period, depending on what your days are. And during your financing, basically you can get if you get denied because you lost your job, you can get a letter of denial and get your escrow deposit back too. So anyway, if you can write a letter, take a picture, waive the inspection fee or waive the inspection period at all, those are some inventive things. So on the other part, the spectrum is, when you're running out there and you're looking at the home, you're actually looking at the open houses and stuff like that. Try to look around. If you're going to waive your inspection period, try to look up at we're not home inspectors, but look to see if there's problems, things that look problematic, because you don't want to waive that home inspection period if the house, probably on any house, but, because they always say for your protection, get a home inspection. So we usually, I would say 100% of realtors say to get a home inspection. So if you waive it, be very, very careful on that one. So as far as listings go, I was telling you, we average them, we get the CMA, we get that price, and then we put it out there on the market. As a listing agent, you don't want to overprice it. So right now we have a lot of advice from our sellers. So you'll say, how much is the house worth? It's worth $475 to $500. Okay, let's put it $550. Well, it's not necessarily the best thing to do. If you put it at the top of the market right now, that's very smart to, let's max it out. Let's put it $499. The reason for doing a listing like that is that you're going to get overpriced right now, most likely if you're in a good area it's a popular area for housing, which most of Florida right now, 100% is getting at least asking price or over asking price. I'll see them later come out as far as the solds, and it'll look like they're a little under. Most of the time it's because during the home inspection period, they might have given them a credit and it's come off the actual sale price of the house, or the agent listed it and it didn't appraise out. So my suggestion for agents is don't make up your own listing price. List it what is the competitive market price, and don't worry that you will get prices over that. So you're going to price it competitively. You're going to keep it clean and simple. In other words, you're going to keep the actual listing. Don't go into, obviously you want your pre-approval and you want it on as is. Don't go into, the history of, the area, the market for realtors. Just keep it simple. This is my deadline. This is, here's the seller's, property, disclosures. Attach all those on there. And then your opinion is obviously awesome, and your seller loves you because they used you, but our opinions don't really have a lot. It's like factual information. So I think the roof will last this long. No, your answer should be, the roof was put on in 2008. We are not builders. We are not contractors. We can't tell you what the life of your roof is. The average in Florida is 20 years is what a home inspector will tell you. But some go 25, some go 21, some go 18 because they're got trees brushing against them, or they're 2 stories. You just don't know. So you don't want to tell them what you think is factual information. So as far as if you have a report and it's from a roofer and it tells you the years left on a roof and you want to put that on there, that's one thing. But to actually say, I think, this roof has 5 years left, or, just keep it simple and keep it clean as far as if you're a listing agent. Take backup buyers. So this is important for buyers and sellers. If I lose out on a house, I say, can we be a backup buyer? Because your home inspection periods are so quick now. We're probably still going to be looking during this period. So home inspection period 7 days. You didn't just get this offer. Do you think you're going to be out with your clients next week? Yes, most likely you are going to be out with your clients next week. So you want to put yourself in a backup situation, which means you can tell them, please put me as a backup buyer. Have your agent, your buyer's agent, call the seller and see how the home inspection went. Be right there, ready to pick up the scraps. And I know it sounds funny, but if you stay right there, it does happen where a lot of these buyers are buying them as fast as they can, and they're now just kind of walking around the house slow, like, did I make a good decision? I beat out all these people. Now this is going to be my house. And then they get cold feet, and then you're right there in the backup position. So seller's agents, take a backup contract. Buyer's agents, submit your contract for backup. So you guys are right there. Then you don't have, where you've fallen through on the market. You don't know where your buyers went. Actually have someone there. So, and then if you get a backup offer, get the proof of funds for the backup offer, get the pre-approval for the backup offer, put them in that position where they're ready to go just in case, just because that home inspection period, not only will it make your buyer that you have motivated because they know a backup buyer is right there, but then your seller will feel more comfortable too, because if this buyer goes away, you have another one right there. You're overdoing your job, and everybody's happy too. The buyers, worst case scenario, your backup buyer finds a place, and then best case scenario, your first contract goes through. So you got that. So also when you're doing right now too, a lot of people have home sale contingencies from up north. I just had one. And what is a home sale contingency? It means that I have to sell my house if I'm a buyer to purchase your home. So a lot of sellers don't like to see that, but they do like to see, I'm selling my house in 10 days. We've already made it through all the inspections. I'm going to have all cash to purchase your home. Now, we like to see that. So what does that mean? So we need the proof of house sale contingency form, and then we need to see your contract that you have up north. We need to see their mortgage. And as an agent, if you're the seller's agent, you want to call that on that contract. You want to talk to that seller's agent up north. You want to make sure that it's going through, not just by this paperwork we have, because God forbid this falls through. Are you going to let them get another contract? Are you going to extend? How much time do you have? There's a whole bunch of factors that play into that. So if you're a actual buyer and you have to sell your house and it's not under contract and it's not for sale, they're probably not going to take you as a house sale contingency. You're most likely, because if you were the seller and I said, yeah, I want to buy your house, and they said, do you have any money? And I said, well, I will once I sell the house. And then they say, well, do you have a contract on your house? And you say, no, not yet, but I will as soon as so they'll say, well, we have 10 other people here that, are all ready to go, but we're going to wait for you to go list it and then go sell it. So that's not the best. That's not attractive to a seller. But if you have your house is listed, your house is under contract, you have a closing date, and mostly cash, that's more attractive to the actual, seller. But again, you want to have that house listed under contract and then go out. And then as a seller doing this, you're selling your house, you have a contract on it, you're going to put an offer in on another house. Make sure you have somewhere to go. Make sure you have a family member to stay with, just in case you sell your house and you're not able to get a home based on your house sale contingency. Make sure that you have a backup plan. I've had, heard horror stories of people in hotels with kids and dogs, and because, everything just didn't go perfect. Have that backup plan. If you have a relative or a friend or family member to stay with, just in case something was to go awry, you want to make sure that you're covered, especially if you have kids and stuff. It's fun the first couple of days in a hotel room, but after that, with a dog and a kid and a husband and a cow and no, I'm just joking. Yeah, it just gets out of control. So if you're listing, like I was saying, don't overprice it. Price it competitively, only because appraisers are up to date now. I'd say that the appraisals were coming in lower Now they're starting to, it's like the appraisers caught up to the market, which is great. They know we're on an uphill slide. They know it was, the average was 4%, but we're seeing 10%, just different all over the place. So, they're pricing the appraisers are doing it more competitively now, but so which is a good deal, good thing. But if you, like I said, if you know what you're doing as far as listing it, you put it competitively. What do you do when people overprice it? So I'm going to list this for 400, and then you guys say, well, I'll give you 420. And then the appraiser comes out and says it's worth 400. What do you do in that actual position? You want to make sure you have an appraisal waiver, or you want to have a note in the contract, anything I took upon myself to overbid that I'm going to bring up cash. So if you have an FHA buyer that has $6,000 down, and you're a buyer's agent and you're new, don't overbid $20,000 on a house that you don't think is going to appraise out, because you're just wasting everybody's time. But your seller should know too, not to take your contract. You should be able to pull the actual market analysis in that area and say, actually an FHA doesn't go 420, but anyway, but let's just say you put conventional. You want to make sure that client has that 20,000. Ask for proof of funds for the 20,000. Don't take someone's word for it. You're gonna, you're changing your status to under contract to pending, and then you're going to take it off the market. You're going to do all this stuff, and then you're just on someone saying, "Well, I have 20,000." And they say, "Oh, well, I thought my dad was going to give me 20,000. He's not anymore." Well, you don't want that situation. You want to see proof of funds for the extra money that they're overspent. You want to talk to the agent. Make sure that someone has seen this money, that we're not just hoping that the appraisal goes over 20,000. Could it happen? Well, if a bunch of stuff sells in that area while you're under contract, yeah, it could go up 20,000. As far as they could find that extra value, but why sweat it out for the full 30 days? Realtors get enough gray hair without causing more by user error, So you want to actually, just make sure that they have that money. Make sure that there's a appraisal waiver if you're the seller's agent, or some type of verbiage into that they're going to come up with the extra money. And then, as far as buyer's agents, you guys know escalation clauses. What an escalation clause is. A lot of my consumers don't know what escalation clause is. Escalation clause is saying that I will go up to this amount. So if it's 400, I'm going to go up to 450. It'll say in an escalation clause, 450,000. And I will go up $1,000 over the highest price up to 450,000. So let's just say Mr. and Mrs. Smith put an offer for 430, and my initial offer was 410. Now my buying price, because I put this escalation clause, is over the Smiths, so I'm at 431. So it'll increase it 1,000 over up to 450. Now, as an agent for not Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but for the escalation clause buyer, you're going to ask for that contract to show Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and of course that agent's going to cross out their information, so they're not just showing you Mr. and Mrs. Smith's whole offer. They're going to cross their name, basically to not to disclose their information, but to show you that there was an offer at 430, and now you're at 431. And then if there's offers that have been gone, there's 3 or 4 that you guys are all really close, and then you come out on top, you're going to obviously see there are other escalation clauses too. So if we all have an escalation clause, it's kind of easy. It sounds super confusing, but let's just say Mr. and Mrs. Smith have an escalation clause for 430. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson have one for 435, and you have one for 450. You just, instead of going like, oh, this is their offer, this is their contract, you just look at those escalation clauses and you go, okay, this one stumps this one, yours stumps this one by 1,000, so the offer is 431. Instead of going through the contract and saying, okay, they've offered 405 with an escalation clause, they've offered 410 with an escalation clause, go right to the escalation clauses and see. And then obviously go through your contract and make sure make sure they're on an as-is. If your customers asked for an as-is contract, make sure it's on an as-is contract. make sure you've included anything extra on the, if there's a house sale contingency, make sure you put it on there, because if that house that they're selling, like I said, doesn't go through, they're losing their deposit, so you want to make sure you cover your buyers at all costs and your sellers, make sure everybody's covered. So if they're selling a house, and then also, make sure you're saying the pre-approvals, all that stuff's covered. So, but escalation clauses are great and everybody's using them. The only thing is that make sure you have the extra cash for the escalation clause. So if the house is priced at 400 and your escalation clause is 450, make sure you got 50 grand plus your closing costs on your loan, to actually cover yourself on that. So there's a lot of information there. I don't know if I blew you guys' heads out of the water or what, but so I had the buyer's tips. I had creative buyers. We're moving people. We're doing whatever it takes to get the offers. But I mean, literally, we've mowed yards, we've cleaned houses, we've done a bunch of crazy stuff since 2021. So at this point, it's like whatever it takes to get the actual house for my customers, So, these are just great tips as far as for buyers. And then as a seller's agents, how to do a CMA is obviously key. And then how not to overprice it, even though you feel like you could get $1 million for most houses right now. You want to just keep it humble, keep it competitive, so that if they are getting an appraisal, it's going to appraise out. And then if you have the people that want to come in and overprice, again, make sure they have cash to bring to the table to actually, if it doesn't appraise out, don't worry, we have it here. Otherwise, you're writing all these deals and they're just falling apart because you didn't think far enough in advance of what possibly could happen. If you're in flood zones, make sure your buyers are aware of a flood zone before they go, further. Make sure with the contract. So if you accept their offer, make sure you send them a flood addendum stating, so that they know, okay, I've got to pay. Some of them have to pay $100 extra a month. This increases the debt ratio. Make sure that you're disclosing everything. You're sending those sellers disclosures. Everything's in a hurry these days, but make sure you slow down enough to disclose. They always say disclose, and disclose some more. So, and if there's HOA and a CDD, again, you want to make sure that the actual buyers are seeing that paperwork, and that they are aware that, again, they're going to have to pay a little extra as far as HOA, depending on what it is. Or if there's a CDD, it's on their taxes, and that's going to be this much extra. When the average tax bill is 2, it's going to be, $3,500. So you're going to be paying extra $100 again a month on top of what we thought was going to be your average, because you picked a neighborhood with a CDD and we didn't figure that in. So make sure you take all those factors into consideration when you're actually purchasing a home, to make sure that you guys are in the right price range that you're supposed to be in. As far as I had one in Longleaf. It was a condo. Villa, townhouse. It was townhouse. Longleaf has a CDD. Longleaf, some parts are flood. And also, the HOA was $170 a month. So as a first-time home buyer, I don't think, flood insurance, AE flood zone, you got $50 to $100 a month, just average. Of course, we have to get a quote, so be aware of that. And then you had the HOA is $170 a month, and then you have the CDD, which was on top of the taxes. So with all those extra fees, it's a couple $100 a month. So if you have a customer who wants to be, at $1,800, and then all of a sudden they're at $2,100 a month for their mortgage, it kind of knocks them out of the park. They don't understand that. So if you're an agent, make sure you're disclosing all those extra fees so that people are not surprised, and it doesn't fall apart last minute. Make sure you're telling them, and actually doing your due diligence to actually check these things and make your buyers aware. But I just want to take a moment to thank Nightberry Title Services. You guys are great, and thank you for all your help. If you're an agent and you don't have a title company that you love, Nightberry even has apps where you can put the actual selling amounts and closing costs, and it'll all come up right on your phone. You don't have to call anyone. Super easy. They have a whole bunch of stuff on there, which is just really great as far as escrowing and stuff like that on the app. Makes it super easy. And speaking of apps, we also have Dylan Gaston from the mortgage firm. Again, the mortgage firm has an app where you can or an actual download where they pre-approve you, and I can put whatever. So if you want a $200,000 home, we can put that in, and you're approved up to $500,000. We can get the pre-approval for $200,000, or we can get the pre-approval for $499,000. You can just play around with that. So if it's a weekend and I can't, you can't get a hold of your mortgage broker, you can get a hold of this pre-approval. It's no problem as long as it's you've already done it ahead of time. We can actually pull that up and print it out, and it's right there for us and stuff. So that is actually a really super good tool. And like I was saying, if you're putting an offer in and you have a lot of cash, make sure you have your pre-approval and your cash bank statement. Cross through your account number and you're all good. If you guys have any questions or need any assistance, if you're buying it or selling, I would be glad to help, and I would love to see you guys inbox me on Facebook or send me a message on my there it is, on my information there. Send me a message on my website, and I would be glad to help you guys if you have any questions or you're just curious about just any of the information I mentioned today. Even if you already have or you're working with someone, I'll be glad to just shoot you in the right direction. If you're an agent, you can also send me a message too. All right, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next week.